do. Life in the bayou was unchanging, summers even more so. There was no Walmart, no movie theater, no entertainments to speak of other than the restaurant and Tater Crib's tiny bar, which boasted 4 concrete block walls, AC that worked most of the time, and a jukebox that played hits from the 80s since he'd never bothered updating the selection. Tilly knew every tune by heart. Like a southern fried brigadoon, this seedy little bayou town had been stuck on a single track, unmoving and morose. After her mother had died and her aunt and uncle had moved away, Tilly had been marooned here, trying to make ends meet to set things right for her brother. Only her efforts were too little and too late. Sweat trickled from her brow into her eye, and she swiped it away with the back of her hand. She'd dawdled outside long enough. A string of chores awaited her inside. The sound of an automobile approaching drew her attention, and she watched a dark limo slide down Main Street, dark windows hiding the passenger. The engine, a low, contained rumble. Unease shivered through her, tightening her belly. The day everyone in town had sworn would never come had arrived. As the vehicle drew near, she couldn't help but pull down the edges of her Daisy Dukes. Somehow the thought of flashing her ass cheeks to the man who rode by in that impossibly luxurious black Bentley seemed a little too stereotypically trashy. Never mind, that was how she earned her best tips. The car's appearance in Bayou Vert was noteworthy enough that Leroy Duhon stepped out of his bait shop, and Cletus Guidry wiped a greasy rag as he strode from the bay of his auto repair shop to watch. He was likely drooling. Fat chance he'd even get to change the oil on the sleek beauty. Up and down the short block, townsfolk gathered on the sidewalk. A presidential candidate on a baby-kissing campaign tour couldn't have gotten more attention. The only person who didn't come outside was Tilly's boss, May Bailio. May stood inside the restaurant, watching through the screen doors. Her dark hands folded over her middle, and her gaze followed the car like it was a hearse, leading the way to the graveyard. Boone Benoit's return might have felt like that to her. Tante May had known the young Boone, remembered the scandal all too well. She'd been working for Tilly's aunt at the time. Even for Tilly, the slow procession felt ominous. She'd been a tween when the tragedy struck, and although she'd cried buckets of tears in the days after, she'd recovered, showing the resilience of a child. Not so the rest of her family. They'd worn the pain like open wounds, never letting them heal. Something she hadn't understood until she'd found the little treasure box. She turned her back and walked into the restaurant, striding up beside May as the car slid out of sight.
"Man's got brass balls,"
May whispered, her voice hoarse. Tilly shivered, wondering if everyone felt like she did. Like the ground would begin to shiver and shake before opening up a huge, jagged gash to swallow the entire town. Change was coming. Wasn't something anyone in the bayou was likely to embrace. Hurricanes came and went, flattening buildings, then sweeping them out on rising tides. The town took nature's violence all in stride. But this was different, darker. A reminder of the scar left on their collective souls.
"Thought for sure he was only prettying up his house to sell it,"
Tilly said softly, placing a hand on May's tense shoulder.
"Saw it in the cups. He be here to stir up trouble."
Although Tilly didn't believe in the portents the older woman read in her tea leaves, she couldn't shake the thought Boone Benoit was back for justice. Not something she could voice aloud, because most folks thought he'd escaped a rightful lynching. May shook off her hand and crossed stiff-legged to the corkboard, where yet another list of jobs opening at the plantation had been tacked just that morning. As often as Boone Benoit's foreman put up the notice, May tore it down and wadded it in her fist. The crisp page crackled as her brown fingers balled it tight. Not that Tilly had needed more than a quick glance when the large, muscled foreman sauntered inside day after day to post yet another notice. The position that made her uneasy was still there, still open. She didn't dare apply. Not just because everyone she knew would be appalled. The secret she'd kept bottled inside was too near the surface of her emotions to risk being anywhere near Boone Benoit. And yet, how could she not? The money from her cashed-in 401k was gone.